that's how full stack came to be, because I was like, I don't want another me, and not even me, Black woman. It's me, assertive, astute, intelligent and thoughtful and caring. Like the package of my characteristics. I don't want another me to come in um, and not be supported and not know where to go or what to do. And so full stack was me packaging like everything that I did into a course, and now I'm trying to build it out into an ecosystem so that other people, other APMs could come in and not be disillusioned and can get promoted significantly faster than I did.
Have you always wondered what a rewarding career in technology feels like? Then look no further. Join Technologists of Color as they interview some amazing people of color working in the tech space. Get to hear their stories and the advice they have to embark on your own successful career. Strap in and take a listen.
Welcome to ToC Presents Get to Know. I am your host, John Exume, and today we have a very special guest with us today. Her name is Diamonde Henderson. She is the principal and founder of an amazing company called Full Stack Product Manager, as well as head of product and GTM for an HR tech company based out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Diamonde Henderson. Of course, Diamonde, you get the claps.
Happy to be here.
Awesome. So, Diamonde, we have a series of questions that we want to ask you, just to share your story about how you got into tech and things like that. So our first question is, Diamonde, tell us about your journey into tech.
Yeah. My journey into tech started in, I'll say childhood, actually. So I grew up in Valdosta, Georgia, which is on the Florida-Georgia border.
Okay.
So small town. And I grew up in a household of entrepreneurs. Like my dad has always worked for himself. And some kind of way I got the entrepreneurial bug early, or the build bug early. And I, whenever I got ice cream money, I would take it, go to the grocery store, buy candy, and then sell it on the playground. And my cousins and my sister became my employees. So like in the morning at breakfast, I would give them like their pay, which is their ice cream money. And then I give them their new set of like candy that they're supposed to sell. And then on the weekends, we sort of sort out, see how much money everybody made, and then, go re-up. And that was like my first endeavor into like venture and entrepreneurship. And so some kind of way in middle school, I got this vision that I was going to go to college and go to Stanford, drop out after having met my co-founder, and go build the next billion-dollar company. I don't know if like the Facebook story was out at that time. I don't know, but I remember this like having this vision and desire in 8th grade. Didn't end up going to Stanford, didn't drop out. Haven't met a co-founder yet, but that sort of put me on a path to thinking about like entrepreneurship and business. Somewhere along the way, though, I steered away from it, and I got diagnosed with like a condition that like impacted my life for a long season, and I was determined to go into medicine as a result of it. And so when I got to college, I chose biology as my focus, but unable to master the immune system and get an A in biology, I sort of like was like, all right, I'm going to study business. So I ended up going into business school and thought that I was going to be an accountant, because I joined a master's of accounting program that was funded by PricewaterhouseCoopers, which is like a top 3 professional services firm, and spent several years like working in accounting. And my aspirations then became to be a partner at a accounting firm. But then I got back into entrepreneurship, started a drop shipping business in college after studying abroad, and meeting a co-founder. Her name's Marianne Cruzat. She actually has like a gaming company and is based out in the Bay now, but we started a drop shipping company after studying abroad in Eastern Europe, and we were selling fanny packs. And so after that, I was like, I want to do something more entrepreneurial. and I found product management. I found it very late though in my senior year, and ended up only applying to 2 companies. It was Dropbox and Indeed.com. They had APM programs, and I ended up getting into Indeed.com's associate product management program, and that was how I got into tech and got into product.
Wow. So you got into tech the unconventional route, not through like, getting your degree and joining a tech career. All
Yeah,
right.
and I
So,
guess it's more conventional now, but yeah, then it wasn't.
okay, excellent. It's interesting that you talked about your drop shipping business. So, like you started business at a young age. What really inspired you? Your family, like what triggered that push to be an entrepreneur at such a young
Yeah,
age?
2 critical things. The first was my parents being an entrepreneur meant that um, income was inconsistent. So we had, um, my parents would not like me to say this, but we were house poor, right? And though we had a beautiful home, I wasn't getting new clothes. I was wearing the same clothes to school. um, and dinners were very simplistic. And I had always had like a vision for my days, right? This is how I want to look, like this is how I want to feel. And the life that my parents were providing for me was in misalignment with what I wanted for myself. And very early on, the communication was, well, if I'm paying for it, then this is what you have, right? So it was, how do I get money so I can go get what I want that's in alignment with the life that I believe that I should have and wake up to every day. So that was one. And then secondly, with my condition, I have keloid disease. With my condition, um, it health insurance like fluctuated for us a lot. And my condition got worse because I did not have access to adequate health care. And that was as a result, right, of entrepreneurship, right, income fluctuating and things like that. And so then I knew it was extremely important for me to be able to take care of myself the way in which I had to in order to have like the quality of life that I wanted. So those were critical things. And then different financial situations happened with my parents. I'm not gonna air their business out, but
Right.
all of those things culminated to like me getting to the bag being essential.
Excellent. Excellent. So, all right. So let, let's shift gears a little bit. So, talk to us. You mentioned that you got into the Price Waterhouse Coopers.
Coopers, yeah.
Was it like an internship? Was it an internship program for them?
Yeah, so it was actually, I went to the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill,
Hmm.
and I got an email like because I went to college for free, thank God. And it was through what's called the Carolina Covenant Program. A lot of universities sort of have them, and it's based upon income and also GPA. And got into that, and the program had sent an email about this, what was called like a Master of Accounting mentorship program, and it was being paid for and facilitated by PwC. And so I ended up joining PwC as the youngest intern. Like I had an internship after my freshman year, which was at the time like very uncommon, but very normal today. And that was I interned in their START program where they had a diversity specific pipeline. Um, and then I did that for 2 years with them. Um, my last internship with them, I was like, I want something more dynamic,
Right.
and because accounting was like a bore, actually, tax is a little more sexy. It's a little bit more fun, but like overall, it's just overall a bore. And I wanted something more dynamic, so I was like, I'm going to go pursue finance. And so then I ended up working at Telemundo. So
Wow.
it was a
Okay.
great year. Yeah, I studied abroad in Thailand and then came back and went straight to Miami and worked at Telemundo.
Okay.
Yeah, spent the summer there in finance and working across like corporate strategy. And then also I was working on like a data migration project, which is actually what enabled me to get into product management because I was using some of those skill sets.
Okay. Wow. So you worked at Telemundo. That's interesting. I have two of my good college friends who I graduated back in New Jersey who moved to Miami to work at Telemundo.
Oh,
Interesting.
oh,
Yes.
dope. Yeah, the office is beautiful. They set up a new office. It's great.
Yes.
Hmm.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. So let's shift gears a little bit. So you work for Telemundo. You're climbing the ladder. You're working. You get your first taste of product management. Talk to us about what inspired you to start Full Stack Product Manager.
Oh, okay.
We'll jump
Yeah,
in. Then we got to
yeah.
come back. Let's start there because that I want to continue on the entrepreneurial trail. Like you started this company.
Yeah, yeah. So I think this is great. So I was reflecting on this the other day. Like I have been the first a lot, and I I don't I guess because I've been reflecting on this and realizing it is not something that I keep at the forefront of my mind.
Okay.
I don't applaud myself of being the first of anything, to be honest. And so what I mean by that is like I was in middle school, like the first, black person or black woman to, or black person in general to have like the highest GPA right in middle school. And I was the first black student government president in the largest high school in Georgia. Then I was, the head of DEI, or not even DEI. What do we call it? What did I name it?
Diversity
Anyways,
inclusion.
no, I renamed it actually. So like it wasn't diversity. I was called Divergence. And there's a
Okay.
whole story behind that. But like I was the first person to like lead sort of like this change management initiative in my business school. And then when I got to Indeed, I was the first black female product manager. Well, myself and another black girl were the first to be hired in Indeed as product people. Um, which is crazy, right? Because Indeed at that point had been around for like 10 to 12 years,
Right.
and they'd hired black males, very few, but had never hired black women product managers. And that's going to be like the bedrock for like my journey and the origin story of Full Stack. So that was one point. First black female product manager. Second point was I joined this company in an APM program um, with misaligned expectations.
Okay.
So I was, informed that I'd be joining a program. They were going to teach me how to be a product manager before they threw me out into the wild. That, it was likely that I wouldn't even be operating as a product manager in my first 90 days. I'd possibly be operating as a designer, maybe even an engineer, right? So I was like, okay, I'm cool. I'm chilling. I'm going to join my six-figure job. They're going to teach me how to be great. I get there, and that is not what happens. What
Wow.
happens is they put me, and they actually told me this, they put me with the most senior and experienced engineers because some kind of way they thought that I had prior product management, like explicit experience and had worked with engineers before, and they expected me to rally up these engineers and like go and deliver like something meaningful in 2 months. Um, and I was not ready.
Wow. Pressure,
I
pressure,
was
pressure.
it was yeah, and I was not ready, not necessarily because I wasn't capable of like onboarding fast, but because there's a couple things. One, college does not prepare you for the real world, right? Like
Right.
it's not even a microcosm of reality. Like it's a completely different world. Um, Two, my mental model, what I expected was like these are the 10 steps on how to be a great product manager. That was not given at all. And the third was the platform that they provided to upskill me was unstructured, right? And though the people that they paired me with were product adjacent, they weren't actually product managers. So all of this was extremely confusing for me. And so this is important because um, the the I was having this conversation with someone from Black Product Managers yesterday, which is like how you start isn't how you finish, right? Like I don't believe that how you start is how you finish, but how you start typically is how you pace, right? Like that velocity is often informed by how you begin, which is why like when you're running track, like you got to get your position right, you got to get your footing together to take off because um, and it's the same thing with any career, and it was the same thing specifically for product management for me. So when we had our sort of onboarding pseudo training program, we were actually graded as if we had actually like um, we were graded in an equitable way, right? Everyone was graded the same way, irrespective of how they had started, right? So it was like everyone was put into the same place, given different levels of engineers, given different levels of support, but at the end we were all graded as if we had all started from the same spot. And so that meant that the guy who had had an internship at the company came out of the onboarding experience with fives, right? The guy actually had intern experience in product management came out with a 4, right? Like, and the people who were confused for the first 2 to 3 weeks, right, came out with 3s, right? And I'll be honest, and I was one of the people that came out with a 3, but I was also the one who won an innovation award, right, at the end of it, right? So, anyways, this is important um, because this what I learned, right, was that not is how you start is how you pace.
Right.
And then also how inequitable, right? Even though they say tech is meritocratic, no matter how they want to call a culture meritocratic, when you're the only way that I could actually be successful is if I actually one, didn't expect my environment to be able to provide resources for me. And then two, if I also learned that I had to create a sort of pathway and training program for myself, because whatever they told me they were going to do for me, I knew would not come to fruition, right? And if it did, it would not come in time, right? So full stack came from me learning that, one, I'm an exceptional product manager. I learned that very, very early. Like my analytical ability, my ability to rally, my ability to lead was very clear very, very early on. But because of the fact that I had started, right, like at a slot lower than people who had started, in a higher rank, I had to do more, right, to get to the same promotion. So given this, while I'm going to call for privacy's sake this person John, while John was doing good work. John's doing good work, and John's scope is moderate, right? John is building rapport with his manager, and John is getting promoted year after year after year. So by year 4, John has 3 promotions, right?
Right.
Here, right, and this is the guy that started with 5s, right? Because the assumption now is this person is exceptional, so like anything that they do, right, off rip, it's like because we've deemed he's exceptional from the beginning, anything that he does this off the way or like maybe not as great, like it's not a penalty to him, it's like a foul to the environment, right? Like, but people that start here with the 3, it's like, okay, well, we know that this person like really needs some work, right? So even if they come out of the gate, right, after taking the learnings from the situation, come out the gate executing hard, when you go to that round table, it's like, all right, this person was a 3 a quarter ago. How are they a 5 now? That can't be true, right? Even though this person, had fewer resources, had greater impact, and also is working on a product that has significantly more users, this person can only be a 4. Not because objectively they did 4 work, but simply because of where they started, right? So this is important because that meant that I couldn't be successful just by being a good product manager. I had to be successful by also being really good at influencing, really good at managing up, because again, I was the first Black female product manager, myself and someone else. So the people that were above me had never seen anybody like me. And also I was assertive. That's another big thing. I think it's a personality thing. I'm very assertive. I'm curious. I'm also extremely astute. And I'm fast. Those characteristics with someone looking like me, like people are thrown off. So with that being said, I had to learn like different strategies to more effectively collaborate, and then also manage up so that people above me could actually pour into me, could actually see my work, and also, not just make assumptions, but actually had adequate evidence, right? Because number 5, John over here is obviously exceptional, right? Obviously exceptional. And then I also then had to not be mad, right? And so I had to do a lot of inner work too, because I'm like, these people got me up, right? And when you bring that energy to work, it doesn't create it doesn't create a good environment for you internally, right? And you're not doing your best work. You're not bringing excitement to your work. And so anyway, so I ended up having to realize that my promotability was not going to be based upon my exceptionality in terms of my intelligence and my delivery, right? Because that was never enough for people. They also wanted me to be agreeable. They also, and so I had to be able to like
Wow.
be, you know, because agreeable isn't my default, right? I had to then be able to influence relationships and people so that people understood who I was, appreciated who I was, and also understood my intent, and then also understood how reflective and um, how important it was for me to grow. And so I had to create this culture of feedback in every place that I went and make it reciprocal so that I could like have that, equivalent understanding that I'm not just great at my job, but I'm a really great person too. And so and this is a long story for why full stack, but it's very thoughtful. Like that's how full stack came to be, because I was like, I don't want another me, and not even me, Black woman. It's me, assertive, astute, intelligent and thoughtful and caring, like the package of my characteristics. I don't want another me to come in um, and not be supported and not know where to go or what to
Okay.
do. And so full stack was me packaging like everything that I did into a course, and now I'm trying to build it out into an ecosystem so that other APMs could come in and not be disillusioned and can get promoted significantly faster than I did.
Excellent. Wow. Diamond, that right there was beautiful. By far, like in terms of like how you answer the question, like tying in the past to what pushes you towards the present. Wow, it's just amazing. So
Technologists of Color strives to provide a growth platform for African Americans in the technology industry. We help you enter the industry and nurture your career goals. Our core programs focus on connecting, informing, teaching, and collaborating. If you are looking for a community to take your career to the next level, join Technologists of Color. Find us at techsofcolor.org.
amazing. So let's unpack a little further. So prior to starting full stack product manager, you've worked at various companies, and you just shared about some of the struggles and some of I would say struggles, some of the challenges you had to be exceptional, right?
Mhm.
Whereas John, our example here, John came out the gate exceptional, and even if John per se slipped in overall work, he was still seen as exceptional, right?
Yes.
So, and you also talked about like you were the first in a
Mhm.
lot of different, you know, parts of your life and experiences in your life. You were the first. So, talk to us when. Let's go back a little. Let's talk about your first your first product manager role, like when
Mhm.
your first product
Mhm.
manager role. Talk to us about you know what you learned. What were some of the things that you, I guess, learned from others that were in the space that had been PMs longer than you? What were some of the things that you learned and that you crafted for yourself that sort of inspired what you do at full stack product manager?
Yeah, yeah. So Indeed is a um, data driven and data democratized company.
Right.
Um, and in business school, we operated in spreadsheets. We took a finance class. I did some data analysis, but it was all like Excel driven. But Indeed is SQL driven, right? Like it's all query languages. And so a part of your success in that first 3 months was predicated on that you having that skill.
Right.
And then two, you being able to query, but then also you being able to analyze, right? Um, and so when I got out of the training program, our incubator, and then into my first team, um, it was clear that once I got the data, I could derive insights like better than my manager,
Right.
right? Like I could look at a data set, identify patterns, I could ask the right questions of the data. But my challenge was querying the data because I didn't have like that skill set. And then the other challenge was then understanding the terminology all around data. Like, what's the difference between a rate versus like a volume, and why, like, and when testing, what, how does the metric you choose like inform when you get to power? What is power? What does it mean to be? What does statistical significance mean? Right? Like I took AP stats. I even got a credit for that in high school. But when you apply it to real life and in context, right? Like some of those things don't translate. Like when you're actually applying p-values in real life, right?
Right, right, right.
Um, and so those were some of the challenges. And so in my first year, I ran like 54 A/B tests, not just single A/B tests, but like multivariate A/B tests, because my role was to refactor our entire front end, because we created a new design system, and so I was not only implementing it but testing each component, from input fields to typography, iconography, anything that you see on Indeed today in terms of icons, color. It was individually tested by me.
Wow.
um, and
Folks, you
so
hear that? Diamond individually tested. Everything you see on Indeed, Diamond has done A/B testing on it.
um,
Wow.
and so I'm gonna get to the part of like, what did I learn? And you know, while my well, one of the things that my manager obviously identified early was my ability to be analytical, right? Because he said, like, okay, yeah, you are asking the right questions, you're deriving the right insights. However, you need to query the data. And so he taught me the querying piece of it. So he
Right.
like forced me to like query everything on my own, be autonomous in that query process, leverage documented resources before I leverage him. And then if I'm blocked, then come to him. And then also he really taught me how to test. And like, I remember we were running one test, um, and it was like the data was like it was inconsistent.
Right.
We had run the same A/B test multiple times, and we were getting different results. And so when that happens, you start to try to debug. And one of the first things that you do is like look at like data quality,
Right.
and make sure like the test groups are being allocated equivalently. Um, and so I didn't understand the importance of that. So we're sitting here, and he's like, oh, let me look at like the number of users in each test. And I'm like, okay, okay, why does that matter? And he's like, okay, and then he's like, okay, we're only going to focus on rates. We're not going to focus on, oh, sorry. He said, let me look at the number of users in each test. And I'm like, okay. And then he's like, okay, they're not equivalent. And I'm like, okay. And then he's like, okay, so we're only going to focus on rates. And I'm like, well, why does that matter?
Right.
And he's like, okay. See, I remember this moment distinctly because it actually changed everything. It's like in physics, like there's one specific equation that unlocks everything else in physics. And if you
Correct.
miss that class, like you fail physics. So this is the moment where I was like, okay, this felt like that moment of, where I needed to pay attention because this is going to unlock everything. And it did. And he was like, okay, so if there are 15 people in this group and, 10 people in this group,
Right.
if we compare them based upon volume, right? Like, and we go from so in the Indeed experience, it's like users, then it's I mean then clicks and then applies. Like
Right.
if you go from if there's 15 users in A, 10 users in B, and then we look at clicks, there are 12 clicks, and then there are 8 clicks. Like, what's your conclusion? Like, are you gonna like which group is better, right? Which group performed better, right? If you look at volumes, like you really can't say which group performed better, right? Because right, and so you have to change it to rates to compare it within context of each group.
Correct. Correct.
And I was like, mind blown, like whoa, like oh my god, that makes so much sense. So since
I wish I had I wish I had the bomb sound effect.
uh,
I would hit it for you. Boom.
yeah, but for me, I was mind blown because I was like, that makes so much sense. But then it's like, well, what is a rate? Like, why is numerator and denominator important? So then you start to decompose like these terms. And then so this is where like it made sense for my analytical mind, right? So that's my next thought. Like I start to decompose these terms. Now this makes sense. And so going back to full stack and like what's embedded, it's like one of the only data driven and oriented courses on the market today because we focus on like existing products, like you as a product manager coming into an existing organization that has been around for a little while, and you're trying to find the opportunities within the data. And so we are one of the only, and I dare I say the only course that is not just a data analytics course, like a how to be a product manager focused on deriving data, analyzing data, and synthesizing data. Like that's really one of our like key value propositions and differentiators, because that was a critical part of how I was successful at product management. And it allowed me to move across the business because I was like adept at um, querying and testing and interpreting, and analyzing. And so that's what I bring to the course.
Awesome. So, you're just speaking to you, Diamond. So now, whenever I tell someone to go to Indeed, I'm gonna say I need A/B. Diamond A/B tested that.
Thank you. There have been additional A/B tests since, because that was like
Right.
back in 2019, 2020.
Okay. Yep.
But like the fundamentals of it, and if you go to the Wayback Machine and like look at
Right.
it in 2017, 2018, and then look at it like in 2019, you can literally see like, the tests that were implemented during while I was there.
All right. Excellent. Excellent. All right, Diamond. A couple more questions. What do you enjoy most about your work
And full stack or product?
in, in product in general?
Yeah. It's like having people touch the thing that I built. And that's why I like entrepreneurship too. I was talking to a friend today about like why is entrepreneurship still important to you? And why not, go all in on like venture capital and build a fund? And I'm like, well, I want people to be able to touch the thing that I built, because they were like, when I was working on that initiative, refactoring the front end, I go home for holidays and I'm like, hey, I can show you what I'm working on, right? Like you
Right.
can look at it, you can see it. Um, and so I loved to be able to reinvent something, because I had already been reinventing like communities and cultures and thought processes, right? Like before. And then now it was like, now I'm reinventing experiences and the way people work, right? And operate in things and workflows. And so that's what's alluring about building. Now product management, right? Because like building and being a founder, I think is different. And then
Right.
building and product management is another thing. And I think the value of building in a product management capacity, when you in product management also often has constraints. You're in a pre-existing organization. Excuse me. Um, I think the allure of that for people is that like a lot of the work has already been done for you.
Right.
I'll say that, right, because you're not building from the ground up. And there's also 0 to 1 product, but 0 to 1 product is often in a pre-existing organization. The distribution often already exists, right? Like you're probably extending something. But I think it's literally the fact that you already get immediate impact, right? You don't have to build your base, right? Like you can come into something that already exists and you can think up something and it touches so many people. It may not revolutionize their lives, but it'll marginally improve their lives. And like that's a dopamine hit to a lot of people.
Right.
And so I think that that's the allure, or at least like that was sort of the allure for me. And yeah.
Excellent. Now, we spoke about what you enjoy most. What are some of the things that you find challenging about the work that you
Yeah, yeah. So again, I like consider myself a builder. So then so I'm trying to like slice it.
do?
Um, the thing that is um, challenging for me personally, um, about product management in an existing organization is that, there's an exchange of goods, but not always an equivalent exchange of value.
Oh, we gotta quote
Um,
that. We gotta quote that.
so meaning like, I provide IP in exchange for a salary,
Right.
but my IP may generate you 5 to 10 million in revenue a month, and I get, a hundredth of that, um, and and then it's like the time to value too is different, right? Like you immediately get that revenue exchange, and then now you have me on a 4-year vesting period, right?
Right.
Like, so I think that's a cognitive challenge for people that are more entrepreneurial.
Right.
Um, the other challenge, which is what we address in full stack, which is why like we see people is foundational, sorry, person is foundation to a personhood, being able to separate yourself from your work, being able to emotionally regulate, right, is the politics of product. In that you are expected to manage outcomes by managing the decisions of people who are being managed by someone else, right?
Yeah.
And so like the sometime incentive misalignment or often incentive misalignment makes product extremely difficult and extremely taxing. Um, and then I'll say like what made product management difficult for someone like me who is like very thoughtful and assertive and astute and ambitious, right? Like, in which is that um, when you're building in a pre-existing organization, um, and I guess I'll compare it, right? When you're building in a pre-existing organization, I'm going to compare the criteria of like pace, and I'm going to compare it in a pre-existing organization, and I'm going to compare it like as a builder, as a founder. So like when you're building in a pre-existing organization, um, pace is frustrating, right? Because you are like, hey, I've like made a case for this thing. It's clear that there's an opportunity. Our users need this. The market is calling for this.
Right.
And then, it's a 3-month approval process. Um, or like there's a 3-month convincing process, right? Or there's um, you know, an appeasement process where people's egos need to be stroked and or their some people's purposes are tied to work, and so their fulfillment needs to they need to get a feeling of fulfillment from this initiative that's in play in order for them to greenlight it. And so there's like some massaging and appeasing that needs to happen before something can actually get launched.
Right.
Um, and as a product manager, you're expected to be able to navigate that effectively and recognize that. Then on like the founder side with sort of building, the pace is often dictated by resources. And that's frustrating where like you see a market opportunity, you've done the customer discovery,
Right.
and then by the time you get investment, like your whole thesis is null because the world looks different.
Right.
And I'll be honest, that's sort of what happened also with full stack a little bit, um, where I started full stack as a concept in 2022 as a newsletter. It took off. I had, people across the world, VPs, Y Combinator on my newsletter, liking stuff. And I'm like, oh, okay, she's raw. Like,
Okay. Okay.
and it was because people liked the way I thought and how I deconstructed ideas. And so that's what led to the course. But the course came, almost a year and a half later. And a year and a half later, I'm now trying to build out and scale full stack. But we missed a market opportunity because, right, like the product managers are being laid off. People are trying to hang on to their engineers, their data scientists, their security people, right? No one's standing up new product programs. Like every new program that these workforce training, centers are starting are related to cybersecurity, project management, roles that are more widely available, and roles that are hip right now. And then you see articles today where the number one job that people want to leave is senior product manager, right? So like
Hmm.
in some ways we missed our like opportune time, and so now I had to wait for that peak again, and it's back, but like back in 2023 there was a slump, and I was like, oh, um, and so we were trying to re-envision. So anyways, long answer, a lot more context than you had asked, but that's what I have to say for that question.
All right. Awesome. 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 Okay. So looking back, or looking back at your, career, what advice would Diamond give her younger self about the
hmm
future?
Oh, what advice would Dama give her younger self about the future? I'll answer this question with answering like, um, what advice would I have wanted to have
Okay.
um, when I was younger to be better prepared for my future.
All right.
And I think that answer happening easier.
Sure. What advice, looking at your career, looking at all that you've accomplished, what advice would Diamond give her younger self about the future?
Okay. Yeah, so I'm going to answer this as like, what advice would I give myself to be better prepared for the future? And I find this to be tough, actually. Um, and I've been sitting here mulling over what the advice would be. Um, I would the advice that I would give my younger self is a couple things. Well, I'm stewing on different things. One is like this advice that I've been given like in the last year, which is like obviously do it scared.
Right.
Don't wait till you're ready. But I'm trying to figure out like what's the foundation of all those things. Like if there was a root, like I think those are sort of like stems or like excuse me, like leaves maybe on
Right.
like this sort of foundation um, or trunk. And so the base of that would be I think it's like I think I should have defined def, I'm gonna just chat a little bit real quick to get to
Sure.
this. So I think I should have defined confidence early. Like what is actual self confidence and what is um, define that for myself. What does a confident diamond look like? Um, and what does diamond need to consistently be confident, right?
Okay.
And so the advice that I think would give myself okay, well, in order to know what confidence is and to be consistently confident, something that is required is for you to like take big bets early,
Mm-hmm.
um, and to also not be afraid of like shame. Um, and so I think, I think it would be like, yeah, live shamelessly.
Okay. Excellent.
Yeah, because I'm trying to take it back, right? And that live shamelessly stems from I met this woman back in Q4 of last year because I went to do an accelerator, and
Okay.
um, she's this 40-year-old woman amongst like a bunch of 20-year-olds. It was a couple of women about that age, um, and I was like, would I be, you know, late 40s, some people even 50s, 60s, like amongst a bunch of 20-year-olds, trying to build something and like listening to what they have to say, and would I feel secure enough in
Right.
myself to do something like that? And what I observed about her, because we went to dinner, because um, I think she was trying to evaluate me, right? Like,
Right.
um, and I just noticed I was like, you're so shameless. She was like, yeah, I am. So, and she was like, I was like, how did you become so shameless? And she was like, well, I met a woman like years ago, and um, I was, impressed by her success and also just who she was. And I asked her, you know, what can I do to be like you? And she's like, you got to be shameless. And I think that's real. Like the founders that I'm around are shameless. They will shamelessly steal your idea. They will shamelessly, you know, go and like seek out customers.
Right.
They will shamelessly, and it's because they know that the difference between like who they're talking to and them is that they're not scared to do it
Right.
because they're fucking shameless, right? They don't care what the outcome will be. They just want to try and see what sticks, right?
Right.
Um, so yeah, it would be shameless, live shamelessly.
Excellent. Excellent. All right, just a couple more questions, and then we'll close. Uh, Diamond, what is some advice you would share with someone who would want to enter the product management field as either maybe even starting their own, product management company or working at a product, or working at a company in product management? What's some advice you would give them?
Yeah, I would say don't. And so right, I would say don't do that, and
Okay.
don't. What I would say do instead is figure out your like why, right? Because
Okay.
people chase product because of the income opportunity. People
Okay.
chase product because they've been beaten up in other roles and they see that product managers make decisions and now they're like they want to, their egos have been hurt, like they want to be important, right? And they see the product manager is important. They think that they've done some requirements gathering and they're like, well, I've been a product manager, so of course I can go do the job, right? And so so many people are graduating from product boot camps, doing 3, 4, and 5 programs,
Mm-hmm.
um, wasting time, getting overeducated, like because they're like, oh well, because I'm not getting a job, it must mean I'm not yet ready, or like I just need one more thing to get to product. But the thing is product isn't a place, right? It's not really a position, right? Like product is made up of a number of functions, which makes it literally a thought process, right?
Correct. Correct.
To me, it's a mode of thinking. And you can be a product manager like right where you are. And I 100% know and believe that if you chose to be a product manager and operate and function like with product principles right where you were, you see an increase in income, you probably see promotion, and you might actually be like tagged to like be considered for this upcoming product role, right? And so I would say don't do it until you actually like evaluate like the why and ensure that you're not trying to run away from something or run to something and it's not like out of um um it's not out of I don't want to
Give it to them straight, Diamond. Give it to
um it's like you run away from something because like you're dissatisfied and there's resentment, but then you can run to things because of ego.
right.
And I guess you're not running towards it because like your ego was bruised in past things and now you think that there's going to be some sort of ego boost or redemption in product, because product is hard, and like the salary, which you can actually get this salary in other roles, but it's really the equity that you're there for.
Right.
Um, like they give it to you and it's never enough, um, because of the fact that they expect you to help to parent like the organization, right? Like
Yep.
you're building products and you're building people along the way, and that is what they expect of you, even though they tell you you're not a manager of people. In order to manage decisions, you have to get into the minds of people, you have to get into the hearts of people, not just your customers, but also the people working around you.
Correct.
Um, and that is what makes product management hard, right? Because often we don't do the inner work to be able to withstand it. And if we can't manage ourselves, and this is what full stack, is really about, like we can't manage others. And so I would say don't, and think about like what is it about product? What's alluring about product? Take those attributes, plug it into Google Chat GPT, and tell them like tell them have them tell you other roles that
Right.
actually make more sense and also are closer to your skill set today.
Okay.
Because my course is intentionally inexpensive because it's actually not built for aspiring PMs. It's built for PMs that are on the job today. And it's built that way because I don't believe that there's any course that can guarantee you a job, right? I think only experience does that. I do believe 100% that the best way to transition to any role is to do it within your organization, not by trying to exit
Right.
and jump into another company in that role. And so I say all this to say, like, I would encourage and implore anyone considering product management, to just stop. Give yourself 30 days, give yourself 2 weeks, evaluate, and then ask the product manager, if you weren't doing product management, like what other function that you work with, like is more exciting to you. I'm sure that they would have multiple answers, right? Because there's always a trade-off.
Right. Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right, Diamond. So last question.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so for those who, let's say they've done the research, they they feel that project management is the place for them. What books or courses would you recommend for someone who, let's say, is brand new? You know, they just got hired at a job. They're brand new. You know, or maybe they completed an internship program. Now they're doing the role.
Hmm.
What books or courses, or online courses or in-person courses, or anything, would you recommend for a newbie to review to help them become, to be a better PM?
Okay, so for clarification, this is the product manager that has an offer in hand.
Yep, offer in hand, they got the job.
Okay.
Maybe it's from, they completed this internship and this internship converts into a role at this
Yeah.
company as a PM.
Yeah.
What courses or, books or anything would you recommend for them?
Yeah. So the book that I recommend is Originals by Adam Grant.
Okay.
It's not a product management book. It's actually a book on change management and organizational behavior.
Okay.
And the reason that is critical is because when you're coming in as a junior PM, you're often going to be managed by a middle manager or someone reporting to a middle manager.
Okay.
And this is where the influencing skill and ability to manage up becomes paramount and will make or break your career. And Originals does an exceptional job of explaining the behavior of middle management and helping you understand why they operate the way that they do, why they tend to be more risk averse, why they tend to be more insecure, why they tend, like all of these things, because, they're sandwiched in between um, people and tend to be more figureheads. They're not tactical, right? And so like with that comes a lot of emotional toil. And this book does a really exceptional job of breaking the science of that, like the behavioral science of that down so that you can effectively navigate your organization. And it was paramount for me during a time where I was dealing or operating in a highly politicized organization.
Okay.
And that's is the year where I started to create Full Stack, right? And so like that's a foundational book. The another one is actually one I'm reading now.
Okay.
And it's a really important one, and so I don't want to butcher the name. Um, it is called, Character Matters. It's called How to Help Our Children Develop Good Judgment, Integrity, and Other Essential Virtues. I know you're like, well, these are adults getting jobs, but no, we're all kids. We're all kids, and we're often poorly parented. And so like part of the person piece is like learning to parent yourself, because then you'll better parent like the people that you're working with, because they were probably also poorly parented. And so with that being said, this helps you identify like your virtues so that your character isn't shaken when you're dealing with the politics of product. And you sort of focus on what's important to you, and then you can make decisions and have, envision outcomes that are in alignment with like the virtues that you're operating around. And then the course I would take is Full Stack Applied Product Management for PMs in established organizations, because it's actually the only course on the market today that actually sets you up for your first 100 days on the job, and it's intended to help you get promoted faster. And we actually had an APM that joined Capital One, who he made a LinkedIn post and was sort of highlighting all of his like wins, and they were like plentiful. And he took our program in the summer before he started his job. And so I reached out trying to understand like, I know you had a PM internship in the past, you studied comp sci, so I'm not going to take full credit of like your success, but I'd like to know like how did my course, support you in your success? And he's like, well, while everyone else around me was looking at other people, right, to help them figure out how to be a PM and being passive, it helped me recognize my agency, and I was able to execute on day one because I already knew what to expect, and I also knew that I had the tools and resources to be successful. And so I was just focused on what do I need to do to, get our team to the level that we want it to be at. And so that's what full stack is about. So yeah, that is what I would say.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Well, Diamond, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to meet with us. How can people get connected with you? Like your social media, your website, if you would like to share that with our
Yeah.
audience?
So you can definitely connect with me on LinkedIn. It's Diamond, Diamonde Henderson, Henderson. You can also find me at diamondhenderson.com, or I'd just prefer you to go to fullstackproductmanager.com. It's fullstackproductmanager.com. And, take a look at the course. If it's interesting to you, then be a part of it. And then secondly, like we offer coaching. So if you are in a highly politicized organization, if you are struggling to be influential in your organization, you're struggling to rally your engineers, I do individual coaching, but we also have coaches in our network that we can alley-oop you to ensure that you are supported.
Excellent, excellent. Well, Diamond, thank you very much for your time. We really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to do this. And audience, let's all give Diamond a clap. Thank you all for listening and also watching. See you next time.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and share. Click the subscribe button